as you guys are watching the intro, pay attention to my super bar and of course the damage at the end, and then we'll get into the build.
I didn't even see the animation. I just realized you said left.
Don't worry about it. I'll stay.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Jenny Green.
Oh my god. I can't see. I'm gonna see we're back again. Show me the damage.
If you've been watching my content for any decent amount of time, you probably know that my favorite exotic in the entire history of Destiny 2 is Ager's Scepter. And with the launch of Heresy, we got some great artifact mods that synergize with trace rifles, the main one being Harsh Refraction, which states trace rifles do more damage to targets affected by elemental debuffs matching their element type. So, stasis in this case. Some of you also might be wondering, what the hell is going on with your super bar? That's not how it's supposed to normally act, is it? And the answer is no. Let me explain why. There's two different things to this. So the first thing is going to be, we're using Ager Scepter's Catalyst perk, which, if you don't know, is essentially you hold reload, and it starts draining your super energy, but it overflows your magazine, and also empowers Ager Scepter to do bonus damage while your super is being drained, or until you run out of ammo / stow your weapon and switch to something else. Additionally, in this mode, as you're firing it at a single target, it starts slowing, and then freezing, and then shattering that target over and over and over again. So essentially, it's supposed to be a limited time thing where you either drain your entire super and then the perk is done, or you run out of ammo. Typically, it'll always be your super is drained to 0 before you ever run out of ammo, because this thing can hold like 600 plus bullets, right? But as you saw in the intro clip, you will literally never run out of super energy, which means you will indefinitely be doing bonus damage and shattering bosses over and over and over again with the Catalyst mode perk until you literally have 0 bullets remaining. I should really stop saying literally so much, huh? Anyway, moving on. So to answer the question of how I'm perpetually keeping my super up forever, the short answer is I'm doing way too much damage way too fast. But let me explain a little bit. So, we have Ager's doing the Catalyst mode damage, which is empowered damage. Then we have Ager's shattering the boss over and over and over again, which is more bonus damage, plus gives you a chunk of super energy. Then I throw my Priz Grenade, which also does the same thing, so we get extra damage there. And one more important thing, Bungie made a big change to roaming supers, where essentially, if you're using one and it's considered a roaming super, you can charge it 3 times faster than you used to be able to. And on that list, Winter's Wrath was included. So that's my running theory on why this happens. So you take those two things and combine it with my Fragments in the kit and my armor mods, and you have a recipe for unlimited super energy. So with that said, let's get into the build and get back to bonus damage. Speaking of bonus damage, while we're doing that with Ager Scepter, we are also going to be combining it with our exotic armor piece, which is going to be Sanguine Alchemy. The only requirement being, you have to be either in a well or some sort of rift, doesn't matter, healing or empowering, and you have to match the super element to your weapon. In this case, again, it's stasis. Additionally, as you shoot the enemy while you're in this sanguine well or rift, you also mark the target, which also gives you additional bonus damage on top of the 4x weapon surge we're already getting. Now, I do want to note here that if you're playing solo and you don't want to depend on your healing rift to be your bonus damage to your Sanguine Alchemy, you could also opt to use Cenotaph Mask instead, which won't give you bonus damage, but it will give you basically unlimited reloads into your trace rifle as you're shooting it. So between Ager's giving you overflowing ammo and Cenotaph Mask, and also our Fragments, which we're going to talk about in a second, you will just basically never have to reload at all. So let's get into the kit. We've already established that we're using Winter's Wrath as our super, so we're going to move on from that and go into abilities and aspects. In our class ability, we have Healing Rift. Now, normally for these prismatic type builds, I go with Phoenix Dive, but since we're going to be utilizing Sanguine Alchemy, I think Healing Rift is the better choice, as it's a backup plan in the event that you don't already have a well down or somebody else is rifting, something like that. So, Healing Rift provides us that access to sanguine damage as well as healing us, and it also synergizes with one of our aspects, which is going to be Helion. So when you pop your Rift, you're going to get a little Solar Buddy, which will occasionally Scorch/Ignite any target that you're shooting at, so it's just a little bit of bonus damage on top of everything else. Next, we have our Melee. So this facilitates two different things. One, it can act as a darkness debuff, and then unravel an enemy as they throw it at them, which makes one of our fragments go live, Facet of Courage, which we'll get to in a second. The other thing with our melee is we can use this with our other aspect, which is going to be Lightning Surge, and then do a Cha-Cha Slide at our group of ads near the boss, which will then make us amplified. When we're amplified, we take 15% less damage, and we're also harder to hit while we're amplified. Also, as a little added bonus, it gives us stacks of Bolt Charge as well. Lastly, we have our grenade, which is going to be Vortex Grenade. We're going to take this and combine it with Facet of Dominance in our Fragment slot to make this a weaken grenade to throw at a boss to weaken them. Now for the Fragments. We have 6 Fragments to list, going from left to right. First, we have Facet of Dawn. This is specifically here to make you radiant when you use your melee, either with Arcane Needle or the Lightning Surge Slide. This is basically here as an extra bonus in the event that you're not sitting in a Well of Radiance, but you're still going to get a radiant buff. So this would be 20% extra damage, but if you're in a well, this would get overridden, and then well would do 25%. So think of this as an emergency backup to where you have to use your Healing Rift instead of a well, and then you throw your melee, so you get radiant. Next up is Facet of Dominance. We already covered this. This allows us to make our Vortex Grenade a weakening grenade, which then debuffs the boss or any enemy that we throw it at. Third is Facet of Courage. Now, normally, how you would use this with a Warlock is you would pop a well, and then do a Darkness debuff onto a boss, and your well would just make your weapons count as ability damage, and that's how you would abuse it with Sanguine. However, we're not using our super in this build, so this is kind of counting on someone else to pop a well for you, and then if they do, then your Agers would count as ability damage as you're shooting it at a boss for 26 years. So if you're in a firing team and you know you have a well Warlock, then absolutely utilize this fragment because it's busted. Otherwise, if you're not with a well Warlock, you could replace this with something like Facet of Solitude instead. Next is Facet of Ruin. This increases the size and the damage of the burst when you shatter a Stasis Crystal or a frozen target. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be shattering the boss non-stop with Agers. This just increases the damage of that. Number 5 is going to be Facet of Protection, the fragment you should have on in literally any prismatic build. This allows you to get increased damage resist when you're surrounded by combatants. And also when you're in Transcendence, which you can do in this build, that effect increases, so you take even less damage. And for our last fragment, we have Facet of Command. So this one can be a little bit tricky, but the general concept of this is when you freeze or suppress a target, in this case with Agers you're freezing, you can get a free reload onto your weapons instantly. Now, the tricky part is this has a small cooldown. You can't just continuously use this over and over and over and throw a grenade every 2 seconds. So you kind of want to try to time it a little bit. What I typically try to do in a DPS phase is I will start the Ager's Catalyst mode, and I will start shooting for a little bit, then I throw my Prismatic Grenade, which will then activate Facet of Command, and then reload ammo into my mag. So initially, if you're just going to throw it and then shoot with Agers, you're going to get like 2 bullets back. But if you start with Agers and lower your mag a little bit and then throw your grenade, Command will then give you a bunch of ammo back, and that's how I think it should be utilized. The longer a boss fight is, the better this fragment becomes, as the longer a boss phase goes, the more likely you're going to be getting low on ammo, but Command can just refresh you back to full, just like that. Before we close the mods, let me just quickly cover the other 2 weapon slots in this build. So Agers is your everything, right? It's going to be your main damage dealing source. What are you going to do with the other 2 slots? So in the energy slot, you can opt to either go with a champion stunning weapon like a sidearm or a fusion, or you can take the route of just having a primary weapon on so that when green bricks drop, they won't get divided between your energy slot and Agers should you need ammo. Now for your heavy slot, this is the just-in-case use in your weapon slots. When Agers happens to run out of ammo and you're depleted to absolutely 0, I think the best choice to make here is to go with another stasis weapon in your heavy to match the surge of either Sanguine or your boots. So for me, personally, I went with Reed's Regret. It is a stasis weapon, so it matches the surges, but also we have Particle Reconstruction this episode, so Reed's Regret will get juiced by the surges and the artifact mod as well. And now for the mods. So in your artifact, the main one that's going to be important is, of course, Harsh Refraction that we covered earlier in the video to do bonus damage with your Trace Rifle. Additionally, you can also have Flashover on and Defibrillating Blast because you can technically get Bolt Charge in this build, or if you're playing with a Titan that puts a barricade down, then you might as well abuse the Bolt Charge and healing mechanic between Flashover and Defibrillating Blast. And then, of course, like I mentioned, Particle Reconstruction. In the event that you're using a Fusion or a Linear, you can get bonus damage from that as well. Everything else is kind of optional, you know? As for armor mods, here they are on screen. I'm trying something new and just showing the mods like this. If you happen to have a question about any of these mods that you're not sure about, feel free to ask in the comments about them, and I'll try to explain why I have a particular mod on, how I'm using it, etc. But this is the basic setup of the build. Nothing is too crazy here. Also, I will have a dim link for this build down in the description below, so if you want to try it out on your own, there you go. And while you're down there, feel free to follow all my socials. They're free, so you might as well, you know, why not, right? Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the build. I am so happy that this is a thing that exists, because I love Agers, and using it as a DPS weapon is fantastic. Also, I'm going to play a blooper at the end to show you what happens when you use 5 of these on a raid boss, and trust me, you are gonna laugh. But before that, if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. If you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or a comment below as well. If you don't know what to leave as a comment, you could say Ager Scepter as the comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Enjoy the blooper.
This man is dead.
What? Yo, come. I think he had
Guys,
too much
he's
Taco
spawning.
Bell.
Mr. Oryx, I don't feel too good.
Oh my god!
He's right on us.
Well, his health bar disappeared about 60 times. What the fuck? In his butt, in his butt, in his butt. Shoot him in his butt.
It's if you keep shooting at him.